The record for human wakefulness is 264 hours. But for most, the biological collapse begins much sooner. By the 24-hour mark, your brain is functionally equivalent to someone who is legally intoxicated. But as you cross into day 3, day 5, and eventually day 7, the line between reality and the subconscious doesn't just blur, it vanishes. We are told that sleep is a luxury. Science proves it is a life support system. Without it, your prefrontal cortex desyncs from the rest of your brain. Your body loses the ability to regulate glucose. Your immune system enters a state of total paralysis. You aren't just tired. You are witnessing the systemic shutdown of the human machine. In this documentary, we track the clinical reality of 7 days without sleep, from the first microsleep to the final auditory hallucinations. This is not a challenge. This is a biological autopsy of the waking mind. This is Protocol 7. The first sun has set, and the extraction from the natural cycle is complete. At the 24-hour mark, the human machine is officially running on borrowed time. Your body, sensing a crisis, floods the system with cortisol and adrenaline. To the outside world, you appear functional, perhaps even hyper-alert. But this is a biological illusion. It is the primitive brain's last attempt to maintain homeostasis before the systemic cracks begin to widen. Internally, the prefrontal cortex, the seat of your logic and decision-making, begins to desynchronize from the amygdala. Your reaction time has slowed to the level of someone with a 0.10 blood alcohol concentration. You are now legally intoxicated by your own exhaustion. Short-term memory recall drops by 40% as the hippocampus struggles to encode the waking world. Glucose metabolism begins to falter. Your insulin sensitivity drops, and your body enters a pro-inflammatory state. Every movement requires more ATP. Every thought consumes more energy than you have left to give. You have survived the first rotation of the sun, but the cost of the next 24 hours is about to become exponentially higher. The second sun has risen, and the biological clock has been completely shattered. At the 48-hour threshold, the human machine enters a state of absolute clinical shock. The brain begins to cannibalize its own resources, and your immune system operates at a paralyzed half-capacity. Inflammation rapidly spreads through the central nervous system as pro-inflammatory proteins flood your bloodstream. You are no longer just tired. You are now legally intoxicated by your own exhaustion. As reality begins to leak, the thalamus fails to filter sensory input, causing your peripheral vision to blur and melt. You see sudden movements in the shadows as dark auditory hallucinations mimic distant whispers. This is the onset of a waking psychosis. Hand-eye coordination drops to absolute zero, forcing the body to experience involuntary microsleeps. Your eyes stay open, but nobody is home. Your metabolic rate enters total chaos as the central nervous system pleads for rest. But the protocol demands execution. The third sun rises on a fractured consciousness. At 72 hours, defense mechanisms completely collapse. The line between reality and nightmare vanishes. Visual hallucinations now become absolute. Peripheral shadows morph into moving physical threats. Auditory distortions mimic sirens and aggressive whispers. The brain eats its own neural connections. The prefrontal cortex goes completely offline. The thalamus fails to filter outside sensory data. You no longer recognize your own reflection. Time perception stretches and dilates into infinity. Heart rate variability drops to dangerous levels. This is not fatigue. This is a controlled descent into clinical madness. But the protocol demands execution. The fourth sun rises on a system in total crisis. At 96 hours without sleep, your grip on reality dissolves completely. Your brain is now swimming in toxic waste that the glymphatic system failed to flush away. Hand tremors become constant as speech slurs into incoherent nonsense. Severe sleep deprivation psychosis triggers intense paranoia and aggressive delusions. Your body temperature drops, and the central nervous system loses control over basic motor functions. Immune white blood cells plummet to zero, leaving the body defenseless against internal decay. You are no longer navigating the world. You are merely surviving inside a waking nightmare. The brain is firing on the last reserves of a system never designed for this damage. But the protocol demands execution. The fifth sun rises on a mind completely detached from the physical body. At 120 hours, reality becomes a fluid concept. Your brain has entered a state of waking REM sleep, forcing dreams directly onto the physical world. Complex visual hallucinations become indistinguishable from reality. You are now conversing with people who are not in the room. Paranoia peaks as the hyperreactive amygdala perceives every shadow as a direct threat. The prefrontal cortex is effectively offline, erasing your ability to form logical thoughts. Time has lost all meaning, stretching seconds into agonizing hours. The human machine is now running on absolute zero, tearing apart its own biology to keep the lights on. But the protocol demands execution. The sixth sun rises on a biological system entering total shutdown. At 144 hours without sleep, the central nervous system loses its ability to transmit electrical impulses. Hand tremors are now violent and constant, and your speech has devolved into a series of incoherent mumblings. Severe sleep deprivation psychosis triggers intense paranoia as you perceive friendly faces as active threats. Your body temperature drops dangerously, forcing your heart to work twice as hard just to keep you warm. White blood cells have plummeted to near zero, leaving your organs defenseless against systemic inflammation. You are no longer navigating the world. You are simply a ghost, operating a failing machine. The brain begins to rapidly dismantle its own neural connections to find energy that simply does not exist, but the protocol demands execution. The seventh sun rises on the ultimate threshold. At 168 hours without sleep, the experiment reaches its absolute limit. Waking psychosis is now fully operational. The prefrontal cortex has completely shut down. The human machine is operating purely on primal survival instincts. You are no longer living. You are simply a ghost trapped inside a failing biological cage. The damage to your central nervous system is now critical, but the protocol is finally complete. You are now free to rest. Or are you?